The Enhanced Games, otherwise known as the Steroid Olympics coming in 2026, will make the sport of track and field come to a very uncomfortable fork in the road. Will the IOC and World Athletics' current format continue to be the only game in town, or will the Enhanced Games drug testing free format change the trajectory of our sport? The original idea for the Enhanced Games was made by an Australian businessman named Aaron D'Souza, who wanted to see the true limits of human potential in sport, and also stop the IOC from exploiting Olympic amateur athletes. Similar to the Grand Slam Track League, the Enhanced Games has millions of dollars of backing behind it. Some notable investors in the Enhanced Games are Donald Trump Jr., its founder Aaron D'Souza, and also Peter Thiel, the tech billionaire. The games are taking place in Las Vegas next year on Memorial Day weekend, and there is already a buzz about it. One of the game's signed athletes, Christian Gomelov, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, just set the 50-meter world record for freestyle swimming. Now, he did this in a time trial, but it was electric timed. And of the signed athletes already listed on the game's website, they're mostly aquatics so far, but I want to draw attention to one person in particular, the only track athlete that's so far on there. Fred Kerley. Earlier this year, Fred Kerley had missed his third test in 12 months, which is called a whereabouts failure for drug testing, which counts as a failed drug test. Now, I don't think Fred Kerley was officially banned just as of yet, but he for sure will be. These bans are from anywhere. I've seen 18 months for Christian Coleman, up to 4 years in some cases, depending how egregious the case is. I believe Qatar of Spain was banned for 4 years. But the traditional time banned is typically 2 years. Now, this is a big blow for Fred because he is 30 years old. The former world champion only has so many years left on the professional circuit. But Fred missing his third test in 12 months wasn't even the biggest news. Shortly thereafter, Fred Kerley announced that he signed with the Enhanced Games. He posted on Instagram something along the lines of Project 9.42, which obviously alludes that that's what his plan is, well, on, I guess, performance enhancing drugs, that he wants to run 9.42 seconds in the 100 meters. And I've seen people doubting Fred's ability to run 9.42, but at the end of the day, 8 of the 12 fastest 100-meter times in history, those people have had a doping violation at some point of their careers. And what this means is drugs work. People run faster when they're taking performance-enhancing drugs, which is why they're banned in the first place. And this is the crux of the problem and most people's main concern about the Enhanced Games. It creates this perverse incentive for people to be more aggressive in their drug use, or making people decide to start taking drugs with the thought in the back of their head that even if they test positive at World Championships or Olympics or related events, they can go to the Enhanced Games and get paid more and perform at their best. And this is what takes us to the fork in the road. Depending how well the Enhanced Games does and what their plans are after the games, if athletes are able to make more money in the Enhanced Games or be able to wear their own sponsor in the games, you're going to see a huge cohort of athletes decide, well, I'm not training for the Olympics or World Championships anymore. I'm gonna hop on drugs and I'm gonna compete in the Enhanced Games. And at the same time, like I mentioned before, encourage more risky doping behavior in the Olympics. And I'm not the only one who thinks this too. The IOC has already written a letter signed by a bunch of athletes condemning the Enhanced Games. World Athletics and World Aquatics have promised that they will ban any athletes who decide to compete in the Enhanced Games. And this is not surprising. This event is an existential threat for all amateur sports federations. If the Enhanced Games brings in an event that's on the level of World Championships or the Olympics and World Championships are in big trouble. Those two together have had a monopoly over track and field and other amateur sports too, but that's beyond the scope of our video, for decades. The Olympics for over a century. And for this new game in town that goes against everything the IOC and World Athletics stands for, when they come in, they're gonna provide competition. And that's not something that World Athletics or the Olympics have ever had. But let's get into why the IOC, World Athletics, and other amateur sports federations have put themselves in this situation in the first place, as well as addressing the moral high ground that these federations are taking over the Enhanced Games. There are some real problems, the way that World Athletics, national federations, and the IOC handle things regarding their athletes. Mainly, they don't pay their athletes, and at the same time have these contracts where you are not allowed, as an athlete, to bring your own sponsor to the games. You have to wear the sponsor that's sponsoring the games. Now, this is the main reason why professionals aren't paid enough running. There are only two events that are the major events in track and field, the Olympics and World Championships. And when you get there, you are going to wear the sponsor, which is normally Nike. Now think if you're an athlete, if you're gonna get sponsored, think of it from the company's perspective. Would you give an athlete millions of dollars knowing that he or she is not allowed to wear your logo? And even look at it from, say, Nike's perspective, who sponsors USA Track and Field, would you pay an athlete an exorbitant amount of money knowing that no matter what, they have to wear your logo anyways at the biggest events? Or are you gonna give them a big discount knowing that you're already paying USA Track and Field a huge amount of money, so they wear it anyways? Let's look at a real world example. In 2015, fresh off a silver medal in the 800 meters in 2013, Nick Symmonds was sponsored by Brooks. And Nick would not sign a contract saying he would wear Nike all the time at the 2015 World Championships in Beijing. He agreed that he would wear it during the races, but at team functions, he wanted to wear Brooks. Now, team functions in legal speak was not definitively defined, meaning everything was considered a team function, and Nick Symmonds wanted to wear Brooks because that was his sponsor. As a consequence of not signing this contract, Nick Symmonds was kicked off the team, which just tells you USA Track and Field and all the other national federations of track and field and the Olympics and World Athletics, they are very adamant on having this monopoly and having the money go to them and then the athletes, which puts athletes in a very difficult spot financially. Nike has a contract with USA Track and Field until 2040 for $20 million a year, and that is probably a big discount if that money wasn't given to the USA Track and Field and was given to the athletes independently, because you would be competing with other brands to put your logo on those athletes and would probably accumulate to more than $20 million a year in sponsorship to these athletes if you would allow the free market to take place. But if Nike has the influence and the financial capability of making everyone wear Nike at a discounted rate, then why not do it? The other gripe I have specifically with the IOC is that they allowed NBA basketball players to compete in the Paris 2024 Olympics. The whole point of the IOC coming out against the enhanced games is that they want to hold themselves to a very high integrity and sporting standard by not using drugs. Yet the NBA is not held to the same drug testing standards even remotely as World Athletics is, and all amateur sports are. If you look up the NBA drug testing, it's kind of shrouded in secrecy. You can't find too much about it. But here's the similarities and the differences that we do know. If you get caught for a PED, in basketball, in the NBA, you will get anywhere from a 10 to 25 game suspension. If you get caught for a PED in track and field, you will get suspended 2 to 4 years. And that's a huge difference. Imagine being Area Knighton, testing positive for trenbolone, and getting suspended for 4 years. Yet if he was in the NBA, maybe 10, 25 games without pay, yeah, that sucks, but that 4 years is almost a career for a lot of these athletes. There is also a maximum of 6 urine tests and 3 blood tests per year in the NBA, and that amount is unlimited in amateur sports. And also, there is no whereabouts system in the NBA, meaning you don't have to let drug testers know where you are at all times like us amateur sports athletes do. And if you ask someone like Fred Kerley if he thinks that's fair, no, that's not fair, because he did not fail a drug test. He just failed his anti-doping obligations from not being where he said he was on his whereabouts system, something that the NBA doesn't have to worry about. And the NBA claims to have random testing, but how random can it be if you don't have to have the athletes provide their location at all times? It's not that random. And how rigorous are these drug tests in the NBA? Nobody truly knows, but what I can say, nobody tested positive for a performance-enhancing drug in the NBA from the years of 1983 to 1999, 16 years. While that was the peak doping era in cycling, track and field, and a lot of amateur sports, due to not being a test for EPO and the tests just being in their infancy stages for a lot of these sports, apparently not a single basketball player ever used performance-enhancing drugs. After 1999, here is the very short list of athletes who have tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs. It's not that long. Now, we need to be fair to the NBA. From 1983 to 1999, apparently that list of drugs were mostly recreational drugs that they were testing for and not performance enhancing, or not as many performance enhancing drugs. It was really in 1999 where they added a lot of performance enhancing drugs to that list that would help you, perform in your sports. But the cope that people give the NBA saying that, well, drugs might not even actually enhance performance in the NBA, it's mostly for strength and endurance, as if strength and endurance have nothing to do with playing basketball. It's naive at best and sinister at worst. And amateur sports is not held to the same standard. I think it's absolutely crazy that a poverty sport like track and field, where people are still living with their parents, are held to a completely different and more vigorous standard than people making tens of millions of dollars in the NBA. Now, I know the NBA has way less players than the amount of people that need to be tested in track and field, yet looking at these body transformations and these like insane healing times that these NBA athletes have, it doesn't really pass the smell test. And when you do a little bit of digging into it either, it still doesn't pass the smell test. Track and field athletes are held to a way higher standard. And the IOC saying, well, we're way too good for performance-enhancing drugs, while turning a blind eye to the NBA athletes competing, just shows to tell you that we're against drugs unless we're gonna make quite a bit of extra money, and then we'll look the other way. Really quickly, guys, if you like what you're seeing in this video, please like and subscribe. On the other hand, the enhanced games could be a one-off, an event so infrequent that it's not worth training for, or it could fail. But to be honest, I don't think it will fail. The enhanced games is also an HRT distributor, which means you can lose money on ticket sales, you can lose money on streaming, yet still make a huge profit from selling your performance-enhancing drugs. You get to say, hey, this person set the 50-meter world record freestyle for swimming and was using this drug protocol. We have it here. He was using our drugs. So what the enhanced games really is a very strong sales pitch to use HRT and to use their drugs that they are going to sell to you. At least that's the vibes I get from the enhanced games this year. But I truly don't think even the enhanced games knows what they're going to be 5-10 years from now. I think that they're going to play it by ear circumstance, where they're going to see how well this enhanced games does. They're going to look at their ticket sales, their streaming sales, and their HRT distribution sales, and then go from there. I'm unsure of the total cost of the enhanced games, but it seems so far that they have a more productive use of capital. The enhanced games doesn't have to govern over 200 athletic bodies. They don't have the obligation to test athletes, which cost $300 million a year in 2017, which adjusted for inflation would cost around $575 million per year in today's money. They also don't have to look after the disabled athletes, the Paralympic athletes. They don't need to subsidize them. They are just getting the best athletes in the sport, paying them whatever, and then making them compete and hopefully, from their standards, set a world record. This productive use of capital that the enhanced games is using is something that the sport of track and field is missing, and I think they will be profitable from it. But to the biggest question, will the enhanced games replace the Olympic Games and the World Athletics Championships? Will a critical mass of athletes decide, I'm going to train for the enhanced games now, I'm not even going to bother with the Olympics or World Championships? And will the upcoming generation of track athletes look at the enhanced games as their North Star, as this is what I'm going to train to full time? I don't think so. The games are built too much like a spectacle and have really nothing underneath it, which just means that if you're already a track star or an amateur sports star, the enhanced games are going to sign you just because they want to just see the world records. They want to sell their HRT. They want to sell their performance enhancing drugs. So I don't think the enhanced games is going to replace anything. There's no ecosystem underneath it. There's no track training teams where it's socially acceptable for performance enhancing drug use. You're not going to be allowed to compete at normal track meets. Even when Christian set the 50-meter world record earlier this year, he did it in a time trial. That's simply not feasible for a lot of these athletes, and simply not doable, and no athlete wants to train by themselves for the hope that the enhanced games will sign them to compete. The risk for amateur athletes is simply just too great to train for the enhanced games. So no, the enhanced games will not replace the Olympics or World Championships, but it will sow the seeds for someone who will. And on that note, I'll see you guys next time.